Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of Board Games Hitting My Table. This is where I talk about all of the games that I have played over the last couple of weeks. This episode covering the first half of September 2024. And I don't have too many games here because I have been out of the country. It's been a few weeks since I've played these games, so my memory isn't crystal clear, and this video might be a little bit vague compared to the usual videos, but I'll talk about them nonetheless. And I do apologise for the glare on the video. The sun is shining quite brightly and I can't manage to close the blinds enough. But let's crack on with the games, after giving a shout out to KIENDA, of course, the show's sponsor. And if you check out their website, they've got some great deals going on, some good loyalty rewards and stuff like that. So be sure to check out kienda.co.uk. But let's start with The Rich and the Good, which is a game that has really kind of hit that sweet spot for me for what I want in an economic game. The rules are so thin, really, like wafer thin rules, but the way they're implemented or the way the gameplay works is so smart and has enough kind of clever little twists to keep me engaged. So as you'd expect with an economic game, you are trying to make as much money as you can. In this example, by buying and selling these different goods. And the cool thing about this game is how the market is manipulated, because you have these cards that are sat between you and one of your neighbours. So think of something like Between Two Cities, but you have these manipulation cards instead, which will either shift up or down the stock prices. So you only have a very small piece of the puzzle. And the kind of further twist on that is that one of the pieces you choose, or one of the cards you choose between a neighbour and yourself, will move the full distance, but the second one will only move half the distance. So, if you've got a really strong card, but the stocks don't really favour you because you've not invested in them, you might want to choose it halfway so that your opponents don't get the full benefit of that. Now, on top of this kind of cool stock manipulation mechanism, this game has a very similar twist to something like High Society, where you are trying to stash money away, and if you are the player who's not stashed the money away or donated it to charity in this example, you are going to be automatically eliminated from scoring. So you want to be making sure that you're at least keeping kind of neck to neck with the other players. And that was a big factor in this most recent game, because after the halfway point, you reveal your funds, and I was way behind in terms of the money that I had donated to charity. I was thinking I'm pretty much going to be out of this race. But the cool dynamic thing about this game is that that's likely going to make your opponents a little bit more comfortable in staying, in the donation kind of bracket, and they're going to be eligible for scoring. But you can use that to your advantage, and that's what happened here. So I actually, in the second phase of the game, managed to donate a lot of money to charity and eliminate one of my opponents who was probably going to win. But unfortunately, I just didn't quite squeeze the win, because if you're donating to charity, that means you're not going to be having that money for your final score. So it really is about striking that perfect balance between the two. This game is fantastic. I think it's criminally underrated and overlooked. And I think it's even climbed a point since I played it last. So, always climbing this one, and it might even continue to do that. So The Rich and the Good, definitely one of the highlights of the period. On to a couple of smaller card games now. I played some more Mind Up. This is a lovely little card game that's a hybrid between a game like Six Nimmt, which, believe it or not, is another game that I've been playing, and a game like Mandala. So it has the Mandala style scoring, where the order in which you collect the cards is going to determine the points they're worth. So you're collecting them based on colours, but the way you're collecting them is by playing the numbers, and whoever plays the lowest number will collect the lowest number in the centre of the table. And there's also a cool little minor twist in the game, where the cards you've collected in the previous round will be your hand for the following round, which makes the game flow very smoothly. So I do like that a lot. Definitely one of my highlights of the last year in terms of pure card games. This is a really good one, and that hybrid between those two games works extremely well, plays very quickly, and some cool decisions. As I mentioned, you probably know what Six Nimmt is all about, so I've played some more of that. Another game that's really worth talking about is Gang of Dice. So this is a game that I did have recently on one of my review videos, and I said I was lukewarm on it. I did like it, but I was probably expecting to like it more because I like dice games, I love Reiner Knizia games, and I love push your luck games. And this is all of those three things. And I have to say, now I've played this more, and we did play this a few games back to back, my appreciation of it is certainly growing. So this is a game quite similar to a game like High Score, where you are trying to roll dice and then you're trying to, bear in mind things that are happening on these cards. Now, in Gang of Dice, you are trying to avoid getting certain combinations on these cards. And the kind of idea of the game is that you are trying to get as close to a threshold as possible without going over, or in this example, not rolling these particular dice. You've got this Yahtzee reroll mechanism, but the way that who's going to determine the winner or not is, of course, if you go bust, you're going to go out of the round, but then it's going to come down to who's rolled the most dice. So the push your luck aspect is how many dice can you roll without going bust. And if you win the round, then you're going to collect everybody else's dice, and therefore your dice are essentially your points. It works actually very well, but I was a little bit, I'm going to say, underwhelmed with the variety of the cards. They're all quite samey and they're all extremely restrictive. Now, in this most recent game, that restrictive bubble almost burst a bit because we were rolling much more dice than usual and actually managing not to go bust, which was quite cool. So this one, I'm going to keeping an open mind about it. I'm not quite comfortable enough to recommend it yet, but it is on the climb for me. So that is Gang of Dice. I had a great time revisiting The Number. So The Number is a game that's somewhat controversial because it has that kind of mind tarnish where people say, is this really a game? Is it not? Is it pure luck? And there is a lot of luck involved. But in this one, you are writing a 3-digit number, and then you're going to put them in order after you simultaneously reveal them. And whoever's written the highest unique number, as in no digits are duplicated below it, will not only score the points of the first digit, but they'll also score some bonus points as well for the round. But again, if you go down the list, those people are also going to score their points if they've not written any duplicates. But as you go on, if you have scored a particular number, then that number is going to get crossed off your sheet and you cannot use it going forward. So as you can imagine, as the game progresses, the information available to you gets more and more clear, and you know what your opponents might do. Now, I had a blast playing this most recent game. I taught it to, I think it was my girlfriend for the first time, as well as playing with 2 other regular people in my gaming group. And 4-player was just so much fun, and I loved it. I thought it was a great time, and I have no hesitations recommending The Number. If you like the kind of quirky little games that you can kind of turn your brain off, but not completely, very fast, and it's just really good fun. So that is The Number. Some more simple card games here with Herbaceous. Played a 2-player game of Herbaceous. I think it's better with more players because the push your luck aspect comes through a little bit stronger. So in this one, you are basically revealing cards in like a Biblios fashion. You are putting one in your personal garden and one in the kind of public garden. And then during any time in the game, you can collect cards either from your personal or the communal, or any mix of the two, and score based on these scorecards. So, do you want doubles, all different cards, all the same cards, etc. So it's definitely better with 3 players or 4 players because you're not quite as confident as when people will cash their cards in. In 2 players, you seem to go to the end a little bit more than usual. So if I was to recommend this one, which I certainly do, I think it's a wonderful little game, very clean, I would say keep it to 3 or 4 players. I think that's what it scales to anyway. Let's have a look at the player count. Yeah, 1 to 4 players. I've not played the solo mode. 2 players, it's fine. It still works and it's very fast. But definitely 3 to 4 players is where the game really sings. I played I think it was a 4-player game of Blockers. Blockers, a game I've not really played too much since having it in the collection. This one, you are playing these, again, I do apologise for the sun here. You are playing these little tokens, and you're playing these tokens based on the rows or columns that those tokens align to. So you can see here, that if I have the H, I can play it on any row in the H there, and of course the 4s can go in that column, etc. You've also got the board is broken down into, I think it's 9 different regions based on the shapes as well. So there's a lot of cross-contamination as to where these tokens can go. And then what you're trying to do is you're trying to create the biggest kind of continuous group, because every separate group that you have is going to cost you points, and points are bad things in this game. It plays rapidly quick. I mean, it's just smashing these things down. But I do think the autonomy is minor. It seems to just work out as it does. You can't really make terribly informed decisions because the margins between the winner and the loser in this game are going to be so small, and it's likely going to come down to a decision that you didn't know you made a long time ago. So although it's fun and it's, you know, it's relatively pleasant to play, I'm not sure if the game is really there for blockers. And the last one of my own collection, or one of the last ones, is Letter Jam. So I played a 4-player game of Letter Jam, this cooperative word game that did very well. I think it came second on my most recent top 10 cooperative game video, where you are trying to help your teammates work out the letters in front of them by providing word clues, and then you're playing this kind of like a word scramble style game and trying to work out what the final word is at the end. We played a very basic mode because I was teaching this to my girlfriend for the first time. I think we played only 5 letters. In this game, you know, the more letters you play, the more difficult it becomes. And I know this is such a nice, pleasant experience. I think it took us about an hour to play in the end. But it kind of feels like you're at peace when playing it. It's not like I was looking at my watch thinking this is taking too long. I was just enjoying the process. I think we did quite well. I think all but one player got their words correct. And even then it was like 1 letter wrong. Yes, we were playing on the easy mode, but we did ourselves justice at least. So nice to get this one back to the table because it's been a long time since I've played this one. And especially playing it 4 players, it kind of, you know, I think it's a sweet spot. You can play it with more or fewer players, and if you're playing with fewer players, you are using kind of a dummy player to represent the other letters, but really good game. The other games that I played that I don't have physical copies of here are Lock. So Lock, one of the best party games that I played recently. Very simple kind of word clue giving style game that's a lot of fun, very family orientated. And a few friends games that I've played are the Taverns of Tiefenthal, nice little dice drafting game, bit of engine building. I think it gets a little bit out of control and feels a little bit messy at times, but I did enjoy it, and you can definitely get some good points combos, and it definitely feels like the game arc is there. Also played San Juan, you know, classic multi-use card game, and I think that's pretty much it. I'm sure I've forgotten another one, but if I have, I will put the picture up. And that's it really. That's all of the games that I have been playing. Again, apologies for that big bright beam of sun. Hopefully it's not been too painful to watch. So yeah, back from holiday now. Hopefully I'll get some new games played. Got some really good ones coming up, including games like Windmill Valley, games like Mischief, the new Dan Kassar game, who's the designer of Arboretum, believe it or not. As well as some other games like House of Cats and etc. So lots of interesting titles coming up on the channel. Now, if you have enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit like and subscribe to and for everybody else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye bye.